Welcome to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten. Hi, I'm Wendy. After I graduated with my master's in wellness management, I started my own company, T2 Coaching, Health, Fitness, and Sport. And I'm Kirsten, an athlete, vegan, life coach, and girl mom, running a business focused on helping others create a life they love. We are here to explore all things wellness to help you become the person you've always wanted to be. So if that's why you're here, open your ears and your mind as we tackle the world of wellness together.
Last week.
Okay, I didn't even look at it.
Hey, Wendy.
Hi, Kirsten. How are you?
Good. Hi, friends out there. How is everybody feeling today?
Oh, I'm feeling great. I'm laughing because right before you just pressed record, I said, what are we talking about today?
I know. And I already pressed record and it does this countdown for 5 seconds. So I didn't have time to answer. So Wendy's like, and I was thinking when I was on my bike ride today, I was like, we really didn't touch base, but we kind of did a couple weeks ago. And then I was thinking, oh, what we should do for a couple of our podcasts is be like, I'll pick a topic that I think is exciting and important and relevant. And then without telling Wendy what it is, I'll just kind of like jump in, ask her some questions and stuff. And then she can do the same thing to me. So it's kind of like, I mean, not honestly, like, I don't think either one of us prepare a ton for our podcast because our podcast is more like, this is our experience and our like what we're living in our lives. So we don't really need to do research because all our topics pull from who we are as humans. So it's not like we're like, oh, let's research this topic. Every once in a while, we might pull up quotes or like today, I actually pulled up a definition. So yeah. So what do you think of that idea, Wendy?
I love it. I think it's great.
Because our podcast is kind of more spontaneous than many.
Fits my personality.
Yeah, it doesn't fit my personality, but it's good for me. So what is your wellness win, Wendy?
Well, we could do a whole podcast on this topic because it has to do with wellness. I went to my endocrinologist the other day. I have a new endocrinologist. I found out after I broke my knee, a month after I broke my knee in 2023, my primary ordered a DEXA scan and I found out I had osteoporosis. I'm 3 or 4 years post-menopause, and that's usually when women lose most of their bone density. And due to issues I had when I was younger, I've never really built up, I think, a big bone density at those bone density years. So I found out I had osteoporosis April of 2023, went on this medication called Temlos in November or December of that year, been on it for a year and a half, and I'm out of osteoporosis. I now have osteopenia. And so it's kind of cool for me to see that medication has worked, and I see how my bones, I've got some bone mass, like my bones were able to build up some bone mass with that medication. So now I'm going to take a supplemental medication to kind of maintain the bone mass that I built up. And, you know, I think these medications you can be on for anywhere between 2 up to 2 years, as much as 5 years. So my bone health is good. And again,
that's awesome.
It's a huge wellness one because when I found out I had osteoporosis, I really had a fear of biking outside and falling and breaking a hip. Like, to me, I'm like, osteoporosis, I'm going to fall, I'm going to break a hip, because that's usually what happens as you're in your 70s or 80s, and I'm only in my 50s. So I feel a little bit more confident about that. The only drawback, and I'll say it, is on this medication and on other medications except Temlos, and Temlos you can only take for 2 years, is it's ironic, is a risk for a side effect is a femur fracture. And I'm like, I don't want to break my femur. I'm a runner.
Oh my gosh, right?
And I'm like, but at the same time, I don't want my bones to brittle away. And if I don't go on medication, then the bone mass that I built up could leave. And so I was talking to my doctor and I'm like, so if I break my femur, like, am I going to be running down a hill and my leg is going to break? Like, that's
right.
my concept of what could happen. And he's like, no. He goes, you'll start to feel some pain. And he's like, if you ever feel pain in that area, then go get an x-ray. So again, the chances are so slim.
So more like almost like a stress fracture or something where it's
Yeah.
not actually like breaking in half,
Right.
but all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's pain there. And then they might see some sort of fracture.
They might see some sort of fracture. And so, and I laughed about it because one of the side effects of Temlos was bone cancer in rats. They haven't found that in humans yet. But I'm like, I was fine with taking this bone cancer risk factor, but I'm not fine with breaking my leg. So anyways, that's a wellness, it's a wellness topic is, women as they age, perimenopause, menopausal women should really get their bone density checked out. Even if they don't have issues like I broke my knee, even if they don't break a bone, it's worthwhile. Maybe, if you're not in menopause or perimenopause yet, it's worthwhile getting a baseline bone density before you go through those hormonal changes that are going to happen to you. You can't fight it. And then getting your bone density done again once you enter perimenopause or enter menopause or exit menopause, just to get that baseline. For me, again, I'm fortunate that I had a DEXA scan back in 1998 when I was a student at Colorado State University. They brought in these brand new DEXA scans. So I was part of a study. So amazingly, I still have my results from 1998. So I've had a few DEXA scans for comparison over the last 25, 30 years that I actually brought to my endocrinologist, and I showed her, I go, well, look at my bone density in 98 compared to now. And so, yeah, it's just,
that's awesome.
worthwhile.
And it's a good reminder to you guys out there too. Like Wendy has been running as long as I've known her. Like she's been running for a very 30 plus years. And you would think that because, you say impact increases bone density.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we encourage, as you get older, to still have some impact in your workout routine. Like I have my people in my functional training class, they're all a lot older. I have them doing some agility stuff where they're bouncing from one foot to the other as a little bit of impact, or maybe some kind of like, not huge box jumps, but just like maybe jumping up on their step without any risers. And we think that, if I'm doing impact, I won't have any bone density issues. So
weights. I've lifted weights.
Yeah.
Since
and
I've
strength training is supposed to increase bone density as well.
Yeah. So like I was very angry. Like I went through the phases of anger and denial and all the 5 stages of grief, whatever. I think it's 5 or 7 stages of grief. I learned that in psychology. And this happened when I broke my patella, and then finding out I had osteoporosis. And I'm like, okay, like running failed me. My plant-based diet failed me. Weight training, everything failed me. And I was so mad that I still had the osteoporosis level that I had. And then I remembered when I was 19, I had my ovary removed. And so that messed with my hormones, and that messes with your bone density at age 19 when you're still building up your bones. And, at 19, I was not vegan. I was eating milk. So I had dairy consumption in my life, again, during those bone building years. But it's just a hormonal thing that I attribute to, I just never built up a strong bone mass at the years you're supposed to build it up. So I had a very, very low starting point. I talked about that with my doctor, and they kind of sort of said, oh, that's agreeing, kind of that's a possibility.
Yeah. And it's also amazing since you've had, maybe bone density issues since you were 19, and with all your sports, and you've crashed a couple times and injuries over the years, that you haven't had more.
Right. I think my patella was less of an injury and more of an accident.
Right.
Kind of thing. But anyways, it's just part of health. And I think, again, women, when they hit their 40s time frame, they need to start really paying attention to that bone density aspect of life.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually, I was thinking on my ride today because I wanted to do a longer workout today because I have my daughter all week. She's not in school yet till next week. My mom's out of town. So I've had her a lot more this week, which means I've had to cut out some of the things I do on my own, which is like biking outside, running outside, swimming outside. We'll go to the gym every morning. but I can, that's limited amount of time. So she was with her dad last night, and he said he could watch her today. And so I was like, oh, good. In my mind, I was going to wake up early, swim, bike outside, do a little transition run. I had this whole plan, but I'm really focusing on making sure I'm rested and getting enough sleep and recovering. We talked about that a lot last week. So at the last minute last night, it was like 10:30, and I'm like, I was going to wake up at 5:30, and then I did my math, and I'm like, oh, that's not enough hours. So I'm like, I'll set my alarm for 8. And if I wake up early, I'll go swimming. If not, I'll just ride. And so then it was more like efficient to go to the gym, but I need to ride outside more. I realized that. I rode up Pikes Peak last weekend. It was amazing. I loved it, but it was so hard. It just made me realize I'm not in the place I want to be yet. And my race is like 3.5 weeks away. So, and it's really, really hilly. So I was like, okay, you have to ride outside and get on some hills. So by the time I packed up my bike, drove out to the place where I like to ride hills, it was already 9:00. And then the whole time, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just listen to podcasts, because that's usually what I do when I ride. And so I'm getting everything ready. I find the podcast I want. And then I was like, oh, I left my earbuds at home. So I was like, I was doing like the regret, like I should have just gone to the gym. I could have gotten so much done while I was on the bike. I could have gotten a swim at the same time because the gym's so much closer. And I was kind of like beating myself up that I made this stupid decision to ride outside. But I was like, and then I was really hot because I always wear long sleeves because just to keep the sun off me. I was really hot. I was getting my bike out. I hit my elbow on the car, like on my funny bone, and it hurt so bad. And I was hot and I didn't have my earbuds, and I'm like, ugh, I was just getting so frustrated. So I'm like, just get on the bike and do some hills. And I did an hour and a half of hills, and then I ran 30 minutes of up and down a hill after. And I felt so awesome when I got done. And I was like, it all was null and void. All that stress and frustration of the morning. I was like, that's all done.
That's all done. And you know what? The riding outside thing. So because I'm doing an Olympic distance next month. So I've been trying to ride at least once a month on my tri bike because I'm still getting my neck and my shoulders and my lower back acclimated. And so every time I like do get outside on my tri bike, and last week I managed 2 times, I'm like, okay, I checked that off.
Yeah.
Now I can go a few days. Yes. And be indoors. And I'll usually ride indoors on my trainer inside. But it's always like, all right, I got that checked off. Again, it's difficult. It's not, I do try to ride from my home. Sometimes I ride from Lifetime, a little bit safer roads, but I'm still a little sketched out riding on the roads here in Georgia, unless I drive somewhere, but I don't want to take 45 minutes to drive somewhere. And so it's worthwhile. Like you did the right thing and you rode your bike outside because that's what you need to do. Right. Riding indoors would not have been as beneficial for your performance in 3 weeks as what you did today on Hill Beats outside.
Right. And I have my daughter for the next 5 days, and she doesn't start school until next Tuesday. So she starts school in 4 days. Well, she starts school in 5 days. I have her for the next 5 days. So it's just going to be shorter times at the gym anyway, the next 5 days. Mm-hmm. So yeah, at the end, I was like, okay, all is well. You didn't get to listen to a podcast. But so then the reason I even brought that up is I was thinking, because I didn't have my music, I didn't have a podcast. And so I came up with some like topics for the next like few weeks. I'll send them to you. But one of them was life over 50, because it is different. Wendy and I are both over 50, not well over 50. We're both 52. But things are different. You have to think about different things. Your bone density, you got to get the colonoscopy. You got to take care of everything we've talked about over our last 8 months of podcasts. Hormones are changing. Maybe your metabolism is changing. There's a lot of things that are different, recovery, stuff like that. So I think you talking about the osteoporosis reminded me that'd be a great topic for us.
Okay.
But it's interesting because I glanced at, when I was putting up our podcast for this week, I glanced at our people that listen to our podcast. And when we first started, it was like 90% women between the ages of like 48 and 59 or whatever that age range was. But now it's actually changed. And now the biggest group is like 35 to 44.
Oh, interesting.
Which is awesome because then we can warn them in advance.
Yeah, that's great.
All the stuff that's about to go down. So my wellness win is actually, I had to bring my daughter. So again, she's out of camp, but school hasn't started yet. And one of the gyms I work at on Mondays doesn't have kid care. And I teach 2 classes in a row. And she's always like, Mom, how old do I have to be to go to your classes? And so I was like, oh, do you want to come to my classes? And she's like, yeah. So I brought her to the gym. I don't think it was allowed, but they didn't say anything at the desk. So she came up, and plus if she didn't want to go to my classes, I brought like books and her journal and all the stuff she likes to do. I brought it in case she didn't want to come to class. She could just chill in the corner. So, but she wanted to come to class, and I did 2 classes. One is, just total body. It's more functional training. She did that one the whole time. She's like lifting these like little 1-pound dumbbells. They're so cute. She's like, Mom, I can't feel my arms. And like when we were doing like leg things, we were doing like single leg squats. And she's like, Mom, I can't feel my legs. And it was fun because it's what all the adults want to say in the class. But adults, like when they take a class, they don't really like talk.
Right.
They're just like doing what you tell them to do. But in their brain, they're like saying all these things that the kids just say out loud. Mm-hmm. So that they loved having her in class. And then my second class is Flex and Flow, where it's 30 minutes of strength training and 30 minutes of yoga. And at the end, we were laying there for Shavasana, and her mat was right next to mine during yoga. And so we're laying there, and she reaches over and holds my hand. And I was like, I know, I was like almost started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Like she got to go to my classes. She's always wanted to. And just I don't know, it was just really, it was a tender moment. So that was 100% my wellness win for the week. It was a big mom win.
Yeah.
Because sometimes as a mom, you're like, do my kids even like me?
Right.
And so she did that on her own. She reached over and put her hand on my hand. I was like, oh, tear. Huge wellness win. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about is I'm reading a book right now. It's called hold on. I wrote it down because I always get the title wrong. Oh, it's called What Happened to You. And it's a book by Oprah and a brain scientist. And they talk a lot about trauma. And so she tells stories about people she's interviewed or her own trauma. And then the brain guy kind of talks about what's happening in your brain during all this and why people react and show up the way they do in life after trauma. And a common theme throughout the book is about regulation and how imperative regulation is for your overall health and wellness. And since this is a podcast on wellness, I really perked up my ears and listened to what they were saying. And it makes so much sense. And it's really, really simple. And so I kind of wanted to talk about it on the podcast today, just some ways that you can make sure that you're keeping your body in balance and you're regulating yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. And we'll go into details about what that means. But I looked up regulation because a lot of times when we hear the word regulation, we think of it like in the social setting, like rules and regulations. And so that's what I was thinking, like a definition. But when they talked about regulating, like we talk about babies self-regulating. Like when they're crying, they learn to suck their thumb. And that's like self-soothing because it's regulating their bodies and it's calming them down and bringing them into a balance so that they are healthier and happier. So I looked up the scientific term of regulation and it really like brings it all together. So I wanted to read it because I could paraphrase it, but I really like the definition that I found. It says, in science, regulation generally refers to the ability of a system, whether biological or social, to maintain a stable state or to achieve a desired outcome despite internal or external disruptions. This involves mechanisms that control and adjust processes to ensure proper functioning or response to changes. In biology, it could refer to gene regulation, metabolic regulation, or the overall ability of an organism to adapt to its environment. So the reason I really like that is because it kind of, in a nutshell, says, how do we, no matter what's going on in our world, whether it's inside our body, in our brain, or out in that outside world, how can we regulate ourselves so that we are still okay? And some of the simple, kind of from all different categories that Wendy and I talk about in wellness, some of the simple things are like, if you're hungry, like as an adult, if you're hungry, you can eat. Babies, when they're hungry, they have to scream and cry and hope that somebody feeds them. And when somebody feeds them, their body is regulated. They don't have to cry anymore. And they develop that sense of, okay, now I feel okay. But I didn't feel okay when I was hungry. So as an adult, if we're hungry, we can eat. If we're thirsty, we can drink. If we are tired, we can sleep. If we are overworked, we can take a break. If our head hurts, we can lay down. So these are ways to regulate ourselves. And we as adults have the ability to do that. But I think sometimes we don't know when it gets into more complicated scenarios. Maybe we don't know how to or what to do to help soothe ourselves to get more of that balance in our life. And a life example that I'm going through right now, and then I'd love to hear what Wendy thinks about this. But I had a really busy summer. And after the summer ended, after swim team ended, and I had more time because swim team takes about 40 hours a week. And I was still doing all my other things. So all of a sudden, I didn't have 40 hours a week of stuff to do. That's a lot of extra time I got back. So I made this list of 100 things. And I'm like, okay, through the month of August, I'm going to get these 100 things done. That's an average of 3 a day. That's reasonable, right? Right. So the first couple days I started doing them. And then I found myself not doing anything and not wanting to do my list, not even wanting to look at my list. All I wanted to do was nothing. And I was getting really frustrated and getting mad at myself because I had so much to do that I let go during the summer. I had stuff I have people I'm behind on getting back to. I have tons of housework I'm behind on. I just so much stuff I was behind on, but all I wanted to do was nothing. And by nothing, I watched every single minute of the entire Tour de France and the women's Tour de France. And I've been playing my game on my phone, and I've been sitting in my leg things, and I've been doing nothing. To me, that's nothing because it's not quote productive. It's not checking things off my list. So I got really frustrated with myself. And then bringing in this topic of self-regulation, I thought about this a lot today. I needed that to balance out 10 weeks of chaos, busyness, and just being on all the time. My mind and my body needed to do nothing to help regulate and get me back to a baseline where I can then start to be productive. And this is 3 weeks after swim team ended. And today was the first day that I felt like, oh, I should start getting these things done. And as Wendy and I, right before we started, I was like, okay, I'm going to do one thing. And I sent out an email that I should have sent in June. And I'm like, Wendy, hold on 2 minutes. And I finished sending the email. So I checked one thing off my list.
So when I listen to that, the word nothing sounds unproductive, wasted time, etc. And to me, based on knowing how overwhelmed you were very productive in watching your shows and relaxing and just allowing yourself to do quote unquote nothing to get you to the place where you thought you were going to be 3 weeks ago, but you weren't, but you are now. And so now you're able to get the list of things done. And to me, I'm also going to say, obviously, it wasn't a priority because you hadn't done it yet. So
Right.
it was okay to not do the 100 things that you wanted to start 3 weeks ago. Everything's okay because now you're in a spot to do it, and it'll get done when it gets done. I just never feel like anything you do in life is a waste of time. Even if you took a 5-hour nap all day, obviously you needed it. And if your body and mind are allowing you to take a 5-hour nap that
Right.
day, that was a productive, quote unquote, productive, again, how you define productivity, time well spent. And
Right.
so whenever I hear these like subjective words, productivity, doing nothing, wasted time, it's always a mindset about, well, what does that mean in the moment? And going back to that self-regulation, I think, yes, you were self-regulating. You were on this frenzy for so long. You needed to take the time to come back down, and hopefully a learning opportunity. So next season, number one, you don't create the frenzy that you had this season if you can avoid it or modify it, adapt. Number two, know how you felt last year after the frenzy of coaching and how you potentially could plan ahead and say, well, this is what happened to me last year, 3 weeks of doing nothing, yet at the same time, you did what you wanted to do and you did what you needed to do. How can you manage that and move forward and plan for that to happen again, or plan for something else to happen?
Right. Yeah. So either,
And the whole like productivity, my husband Don and I were talking about really what does productivity really mean, and it really does mean something different to everyone, and it means something different every time you feel like you're productive. It means something different.
yeah, because even doing that one email right before we started talking, I was like, literally that one email, I was like, okay, I did something productive today. And it was one thing, and how that literally took me like 2 minutes.
Well, and you did an hour and a half ride in a 30-minute run. That's productive too.
That is true.
It probably wasn't on your list of 100 things, because you
Right.
probably have a different list of training and a different list of other things, work, other stuff you want to get done. But you just gotta, again, it's a mindset, and really the big picture of what you learned in the past, living in the present, because how you live in the present will determine your future.
Right. And I think that's why I like that idea of regulation, because then it gives me, to me, it kind of makes sense of it, instead of, so that whether that's called a mind shift switch,
Right.
whether that's called, oh, this is a word or a concept that helps me make sense of what just happened in my last 3 weeks of me, quote, doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I think
you kind of just defined what happened to you post coaching lifestyle, getting these 40 hours back in your week, and you're just kind of defining what you experienced over the last 3 weeks.
right. And I think it's really important. I think this also kind of goes into the mental and emotional side of regulation, is connection, and knowing that there's other people out there that have felt this way, or that go through something similar, even if it's in a different area of life. And I think that people I've talked to about things, even in our podcast responses we've got from the podcast, and they're like, oh, I'm so glad you had that experience, or I'm so glad that happened to you, because now I know it's okay that it happened to me. And I feel like that's that's a positive of social media. That's a positive of us having access to more of people's like inner worlds with transparency and being more vulnerable these days. Is it allows you to feel okay about what's going on in your life when you see other people experiencing it and finding meaning and making sense of what you're feeling.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a good, I think connection and relationships are such an important part of our mental and emotional well-being.
I agree 100%.
So another thing I had happen this week that got me thinking about a lot of other things. When I had my daughters in therapy and when we were at the therapist, there's always this girl that's there the same time as her. She's a year younger than my daughter. She's 6. And she's always super like friendly and outgoing. And she asks all these questions and she makes me laugh. But I'd only ever seen that side of her. And this week in therapy, I could hear her like screaming in the other therapist's room. And so her mom went in and they had a little it seemed like it had happened before. And if she's going to be this way, she's taken out of therapy. And this girl who's 6 years old is screaming like, she was saying like, I can't wait until I'm old enough to be on TikTok so I can tell everybody what a horrible mother you are. Like all that, like it lasted like 10 minutes of this back and forth and the therapist trying to like intervene and the mom. And it was like in the hallway. So I didn't see what was going on and I was writing in my journal anyway, but like made me so anxious that there was just so much like anger and like all that going on over there. But it also at the same time made me realize how grateful I am that I'm not that in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it got my mind spinning, like, what's going on? Like there sound like so much pain in that little girl's voice and pain in the mother. And what would I do if what if Cora was like that and she's yelling at me and telling me how much she hates me and all this. And I was just like, I have no idea what I would do. And I had to kind of like calm myself down because I was getting really anxious because of it. But it made me really realize how grateful I am. And that kind of helped with not feeling productive, like just being grateful. And we talked about that last week. And just kind of coming back to like what's really important and making sure those are the things that are getting done, not my pile of laundry that's clean, that's on the floor, that the dogs are laying on.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think when I think of the sibling or the little girl you just described, I think, maybe she has some manic disorder, bipolar disorder, ADHD disorder, that ability to yell like that and say TikTok and how does she even know what TikTok is?
No, I was like, TikTok.
Yeah, like how does she even know what that is? It just, to me, that sounds like, okay, there's something going on in the family how old was this girl?
Like 6.
Yeah, why does this girl even know what TikTok is? So something's going on in that the family needs to, there's dynamics in the family that need to change, that a 6-year-old should not be on TikTok because obviously she wants to go on TikTok for a reason. So she must have been scrolling on it at some point, maybe on her mother or father's phone or sibling's phone, whatever. So that would need to be addressed. And just, when kids are raging like that, again, some sort of maybe mental disorder, she needs to, obviously she's in therapy, so hopefully they'll work.
Right. And it's interesting you are talking about mental disorders. We were at the park yesterday and there was a group of adults that I don't know anything about them, but they were, I don't even know like what it would be called. I used to work at a home when I was in college or right after college where 5 residents who had some sort of mental or physical disability. They lived there and we took care of them and I did an overnight shift there. So I don't want to like say the wrong thing and be not PC, but it's like adults with like mental disorders, whatever it was. But they were at the park. We were playing at the park yesterday and they were there and they kept like asking Cora questions, but like she couldn't really understand them. And, they were kind of like, one guy was just like kind of rocking and like making this whistling sound. And Cora's like, why does that guy keep whistling? And why is that lady out? She was asking all these questions about it. And so I didn't really know because I don't know these people and I don't know what's going on with them. So I didn't really know how to respond. But it's interesting to, I guess, teach or show younger people that there is a lot of different there's a big spectrum of different mental things going on in the world with people. And, like, I don't know how to help them understand it, or I don't know when they learn about it, but I wanted to kind of share with her things, but I didn't really know how to do it.
And now you can learn yourself and plan in case it happens again. Again, the word spectrum, there is a spectrum, of issues that kids and adults, we all lie on the spectrum somewhere. Yes. And so I think the more you encounter situations like that, the more you're going to learn about it and be curious about it and ask questions yourself as a parent to how to acknowledge it with your daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just interesting. I mean, when you're not, like, I never planned on being a parent when I was younger. So I never thought about these things. Like, when they came up with me, I never thought, like, oh, when I have a kid, this is when we'll talk about this, or this is when we'll talk about this. Because I just, all of a sudden I was a mom and I'm like, I don't know.
And that's okay.
I know. So what are some other things that I know you're really big on just shifting your mindset. When you're feeling, if something's going on in your life that you're feeling a little like negative about, or you don't feel in balance or in alignment. But I know a lot of people, even our listeners are like, oh, that's easier than it sounds. Right? I mean, sorry, that sounds easier than it is, to just be like, oh, shift your mindset. So what are some things that you have done in your life if you're feeling out of whack, either mentally, physically, or emotionally? What are some things that have helped you kind of come back to balance or come back to center?
Shift in mindset, self-talk. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, for me, it's a lot of, I do a lot of self-talk, so I do a lot of role playing. If someone was coming to me feeling the way I'm feeling, what would I say to them, kind of thing.
Like role reversal thing.
Role reversal. I don't do visualization. Oh, I do visualization for my sport, but I don't do meditation. I think I have my own private meditation, like we talked about last time with swimming. It's quiet. Mm-hmm. It's our sport. It's relaxation. 20-minute naps are my form of meditation. So I don't practice, though, the traditional meditation. I don't do breathing exercises. There's a lot of different types of breathing exercises that people do. Just breath work in general to change their focus and focus on the breath and kind of forget about everything else. So I think those are ways people can do it. But for me, it's all about self-talk and asking myself, why am I feeling this way? What would happen if I did that? Or what would happen if I didn't do that? How would I feel? So I'm not the expert on this.
Right. So do you ever like write these things down, or you just have the conversations?
No, I just have the conversation in my head. I don't journal. I don't do anything like that. I just have the conversations in my head.
And when you do that, does it just help give you solutions, or does it like lessen anxiety, or both?
Both. And again, if I'm ever, sometimes again, from my training, sometimes I'm questioning, should I go right outside or should I just do it inside? Because I could just go in my garage and be done with it. I don't have to drive anywhere because I have so many other things to do. And that kind of stuff makes me anxious. Choosing how to spend my time, again, productively. And then again, I question, well, what are the benefits of me driving 30 minutes to go for that ride outside? What are the benefits of me doing it outside? What's the ultimate goal? What do I need more of now in the present moment? If my race was 10 weeks away, I'm going to stay inside. My race is 3 weeks away, I'm going to go outside because that's going to benefit me more. And so it's just a lot of, again, the whole just having the conversations in my head. That's what happens a lot.
You're essentially asking the questions to yourself that if I came to you and said, Coach Wendy, do I ride inside or outside today? You would say, what's your biggest benefit of riding inside? I can get all this work done.
What's the goal?
What's your biggest benefit of riding outside? It's more like my race. Well, how far away is your race? 3 weeks. What's most important to you right now? Getting an hour of work done or getting on hills for an hour 3 weeks out from your race.
Right. Same thing with like the housework that we all have to do, the in-home, the managing, taking care of your daughter. Again, just shuffling and juggling the present. Well, what is more important that I do now? Because sometimes you have to do A, B, and C in order for X, Y, and Z to be beneficial. So I think as I've just always been good, again, we did a podcast on time management. I've always been feeling really good about my time management and the way I juggle things, and the way, again, my self-talk has always provided positive outcomes for me.
Right.
That's just how I work. But for others, again, if they're struggling with something like this, the solution is to talk to someone else who can relate, who's been through it, who understands it, who can provide solutions for them.
Right. And I think when you know your priorities, like we've talked about this before too, where my priority this month was different than my priorities last month. And they were different than my priorities the month before. So I could have set my alarm for 6 a.m. and gotten my swim in and gotten my bike and run in. But last night at 10:30, I was like, you know what? My priority this month, yeah, I had a list of 100 things I want to get done, but my priority is sleep and taking care of myself physically, because I think that's something I kind of let go of when I was really busy. And that's something that's way more important to me than getting all my stuff done. So then I reset my alarm from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and I slept that whole time. So my body was self-regulating. I was regulating myself because I needed those 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And I guarantee I'll feel better later.
Absolutely.
I started giving Cora this choice because she loves taking baths, and her baths are like 45 minutes long, and she always hated showers. But now that it's summer and it's light outside late and she has a bunch of friends in the apartment, she wants to play. So I started saying, you could either come, it'd be like 7 o'clock. And I'm like, you could either come in now and take a bath, or you can play for another 45 minutes and take a shower. And since we started doing that, every time she picks the shower, because playing outside, even though she loves baths and hates showers, playing outside is way more of a priority for her right now than enjoying her bath.
I love it.
So yeah, giving yourself those options, and like Wendy said, thinking about what the outcome of each option would be, what's more important in your life in this moment.
Mm-hmm. So
I think that's a great way to think of it. Did you have any listener questions?
I mean, it wasn't a listener question, but I was following a client that I've coached years ago, and he's doing this weight loss stuff, and he's doing really well. So I made a comment to him, and we started socializing, and then all of a sudden he shoots me a message that he signed up for 70.3. And so he's like, because he's doing strength training, nutrition, losing weight. He's not focused on the cardio side of things like a triathlon training would be. So this race is I think it's in March, and he's like, how long do I need to train? And so that's just a very common question if you're an athlete out there. How long do you need to train for a 70.3 or 140.6? And again, the answer always depends. Knowing this athlete and knowing his previous training days when I used to coach him, knowing where he is now, I think I told him, I think you need to start now. You're 8 months out, but you don't need to start now with 12 hours a week. You need to start now with go for a couple 20-minute runs this week, jump in the pool, assess your swim fitness, get on the bike if you can, assess your bike fitness, and just try to get back into a frequency of, swim on Monday, run on Tuesday, bike on Wednesday, swim on Thursday, run on, one sport a day, 20 to 30 minutes, just kind of get back into a routine, and then, kind of go from there. So it's definitely an answer that just depends on someone's previous experience, current fitness, and goals moving forward, and just how much time until their goal race is going to be?
Yeah, I get that question a lot too. So it's great. And like you said, it completely depends on the person. So that would be hard to even give like general guidelines. But like
Right.
Wendy said, if you haven't been doing any consistent aerobic activity, I would definitely start now, no matter when your race is, because the sooner you start building up that cardio and aerobic base, the less you have to do later on.
Yeah.
So
And you
start
won't feel rushed or crammed.
now. Mm-hmm.
You just give yourself a lot of time. Giving yourself the more time, the better.
Yeah.
For anything. Even if your race was 3 years from now, if you're big, again, going back to like if you were going to run a marathon or an Ironman in 3 years, you start now.
Right.
You start doing small things now. And then from now until 3 years, you train for a 5K, you build up to a 10K, you build up to a half marathon. Maybe you do a marathon in a year before your Ironman in 3 years. Maybe you do a couple half Ironmans, you do a couple Olympics, you do a couple sprints. So there's a lot of ways to train for your peak event that happens in 3 years. So why not start with a mindset focus now and start developing the skills and the drills now and just progress slowly. I coach this girl. I knew her in Colorado. I used to coach her in Colorado, and she's back with me. She's doing a marathon in January, and I've been coaching her for 3 months for a marathon. She's giving herself plenty of time to build up slowly. She's not coming to me 12 weeks before the marathon and says, I want to do a marathon in 3 months.
And then you have to start with an 8-mile run.
Right. That's just not enough time for someone who hasn't been running.
Right.
That would be enough time for me because I haven't stopped running, in 30 years, but it wouldn't be enough time for someone who hasn't been running. So just start sooner rather than later. Yeah.
And it's also really good to start developing the habit of training. So even if it's just like, let's say they have 6 hours a week to train and they come to a year before their event, you can still start scheduling an hour a day, 6 days a week. And it could be, part of that could be walking, part of that could be foam rolling, part of that could be some core stuff, but getting in the habit so that when they start, let's say training for a marathon and they're doing 6 hours a week, they already have a habit of working out 6 hours a week. And then you're just going to start adding in the specific sport, but they don't have to carve out all this time because they've gotten in the habit of spending this time for their training.
Right.
I have a girl who, her 70.3 is October 25th, and she started training in January. And it's interesting because we did some I like doing like segments of like heavier biking, heavier running, heavier swimming when we have all that time, because then you can kind of see how their body develops in that. And not that you're going to be like just running, but maybe a couple more hours of running in this block of training and a couple more hours of biking. And we had done a running, I think it was like in March, we did like kind of heavy running just to see how her body would do. She had some back problems in the past before we started kind of adding more of everything. And a couple of weeks ago, she's like, I feel, because we haven't done we're just starting to build back up her running because her race is in like a month and a half. Or 2 months, whatever, October 25th is 2 months. So we're just starting to add back in longer runs. She's like, oh, I feel like I have no running fitness because that was 3 months ago that we focused on her run. But I'm like, as soon as you start doing it, your body's going to remember what you did. And so, yeah, I love when people come to me further out because like you said, it's less stress. It's less like all of a sudden, oh, I'm training for this marathon in 8 weeks. What should I do? And you're like, what's your longest run? They're like 2 miles. And you're like, well, next week you have to do 10. If you want to be on track. I didn't have a listener question, but I did have some listener feedback I wanted to share because this is probably one of the things that Wendy and I will love this feedback. And Wendy has no idea what it is, but I did this all women's, I filled in a relay in an all women's race this past weekend. And the person announcing the race was somebody that Wendy and I know very well, Ainsley. And he said because I've seen him once this summer at a race, because he does announcing for a lot of local races. And he used to be a professional cyclist. And when he stopped as a professional cyclist, he's like, now what do I do? Like, I've been basically like under the care and guidance of a coach for my whole life. And now what? So he started a podcast a long time ago. Like, I forgot what it was called, but it was something like, now that I'm done with my sport, now what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
It was like that. And then he did it for a while, and then he stopped, and he was raising kids, and a bunch of stuff went on. He owned a business, and then he didn't. Then he was cycling again. Then he wasn't. Then he was coaching. Then he wasn't. So he said, he was like, the first thing he said, I love that you and Wendy, after all these years, are still collaborating on something together.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, me too. It's so awesome to like get to chit chat with her once a week. And then he said, and you guys have inspired me to start back up a podcast.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I was like, yes. And he said, here are the reasons that we actually inspired him. Number one, he's old like us, and he's scared of the technology. And the fact that we did it, and we kind of like rolled with it at the beginning. And I tried 10 different microphones, and we tried 3 different ways to do it. And we finally were like, you know what? Like, nothing fancy. Wendy's been in 3 environments in the last 45 minutes. She was outside. Now she's inside. I'm sitting in my messy room with my bed right there. And Wendy's late. A couple weeks ago, she was laying on a pillow. I did it from when I was in St. George racing. The fact that we just do it and make it work, and we're just us, like unapologetically us. He said that was really inspiring because the technology scared him, the production scared him, the worrying about what people think scared him, and the fact that we just kind of not breezed through all of it, but kind of just rolled through all of it, he said was inspired him to get started.
Oh, I'm excited for him. Thank you.
I know.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, I loved like talking to him and him saying that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to share this because, part of why Wendy and I do this is just to inspire people in general, whether that's inspire you guys to take care of yourself more, to love yourself more, to get out and try something new, to stay active, to stay healthy and well, or to start your own podcast.
Yay.
Yay. What are you most excited about this upcoming week?
Well, my husband's birthday's tomorrow, so we're going to do it.
Happy birthday, Don.
Yeah, he was getting loud. I don't know if you could hear. He's home today, and his computer was on. That's why I moved back outside. And then I moved back outside, and then all these trucks are driving by. So apologies if there's some truck and music interference.
It's always my dogs are barking. So
yeah, so we'll have like a big family get together tomorrow evening, celebrate his birthday. And then I'm excited because I'm going to do a half marathon on Saturday.
No way.
And I really wanted to do the 10K, but it was full. So I got on the waiting list for the 10K and the half marathon. And 2 of my friends who were scheduled for the half marathon backed down to the 10K. So the half marathon availability opened up. So I'm like, oh, what the hell? Let's do a half marathon. And it's a night race. It starts at 7:00 at night.
Oh my gosh. How long has it been since you've done a standalone half marathon?
A road half marathon.
Yeah.
I haven't done in 3 years. I haven't done since I broke my knee. So it's 2022. Wow, I was cranking in 2022. 2022 was a really good year for me in my sport, like speed wise. I think it was the Publix half marathon that I did in 2022. And I was pretty speedy back then, faster than I realized. So I've done this race 3 times. I looked at my results and I'm going from, I don't think I'm going to do my best time that I did 3 years ago, but I think I can go my second best time. So that's my goal is to this will be my 4th time doing it. And my goal is to beat my first 2 times. And maybe, I don't know. I don't want to hurt that much to try to beat.
Right. But if you're close, you could be like, oh, maybe in next year at this race, maybe I will go for my PR.
Right, exactly. So yeah, half marathon. I'm kind of excited about it. It's called the Alien Half Marathon. It's at night.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun. I love it that it's the Alien Half Marathon. I did a marathon in New Mexico in Roswell. That was my New Mexico marathon.
This is in Roswell, Georgia.
No way.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was the same one.
Because
is there a marathon too?
There's some alien invasion in Roswell.
Yeah. Is there a full marathon there too?
No, just a half.
Okay. Because the full marathon I did, it started at like 4 a.m.
Okay.
Because it was in August, and it's so hot in August. That's probably why it's running at night.
Oh, but it's still going to be really hot.
Yeah.
We've had such high humidity. It's been gross.
So, I don't know what I'm excited about. I just automatically always ask you, and then I'm like, oh crap, what am I excited about? I am, Cora starts school next week, so we can get into a rhythm and back into a routine, which I thrive in a routine.
Routine, regulation.
Rhythm, routine, and regulation. So next week, I'm going to be on fire. I got all 100 things checked off my list.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear about it.
I know. I'm so excited. So, but it's our last weekend together, and I asked her what she wanted to do. Well, not our last weekend together. It's our last weekend before school starts. And I asked her what she wanted to do, and she said she just wanted to go to as many different swimming pools as possible. So,
I love it. That's great.
We'll go to a different swimming pool with different water slides every day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, we don't really have time because we're really busy all day. And then she starts school Tuesday. So she'll be in 2nd grade. We met her teacher yesterday. So she's really excited about that.
Yay.
And I'm excited to see what she writes. I have one of those boards that has like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite food? Like all these things for each year. And I'm always interested to see what she writes. Because that always makes me laugh. All right, you guys, let us know how you're doing, what you want to hear about. If you have any listener questions, we still keep it as a segment. If you are just wanting to pipe in and share some of your experiences with us about how you regulate, how things are going for you, what races you have coming up, we love to know that too. Just drop us a line. Get in touch with either one of us and share your experiences. We love to hear them.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you guys for being here.
Make it a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten. If you want to learn more about us or anything we talked about today, check out the links in our show notes. We would love to know what you think of our podcast and what you want more of. So drop us a comment, send us a message, and help us out by leaving us a rating and a review. And don't forget to let us know your wellness win for this week. Thanks for listening. Make it a great day.